Have you ever wondered if what you're doing actually mattered? I sure did. And in my mid 20s, I was stuck. I had finished college early with a degree that I was probably never going to use, and I was working a retail job at REI. I knew that I was made for more. And because of that, I made a decision. I was going to leave my 5 year career in the outdoor industry to do something new. I'm so glad I did. It radically changed my life. I went from making 14K a year to now a combined six-figure household income. I had clarity and was able to truly lock into my purpose about what I wanted to do with my life. Maybe you're like me, and I want to share that experience with you. But before we do that, do any of these thoughts sound familiar? I'm not sure if I should change my career. Don't I already have enough momentum where I'm at? Even if I did change, what's the point? Do I even have what it takes to move careers? Also, this is a tough one. Is this the smart thing to do? All of these are really realistic questions, and I want to show you my journey and how it turned out. Let's talk about them. I think it's important to break it into a couple core components that we'll walk through today. The first is finding your start. The next is your North Star, kind of like your guiding principles, your why. Then getting equipped, saying a prayer, having your big break, and ultimately I'm going to take you to today, the outcome of all these things. I think the first thing that's really helpful in this career transition is really understanding yourself. I'm not coming at you and saying you need to do a career transition or you would miss out on something spectacular by doing so. I'm just here to offer some perspective because that's what I knew I needed, and I want to share that with you. Maybe you're considering changing careers or you're actively engaged in it. So either way, I encourage you, ask this question. Where are you at? And here's what I mean by that. Is my current situation stable enough to handle a career transition? Also, and this is really important, are you willing to accept the outcome of this career transition regardless if it's good or bad? You don't really know. And even if you do make the transition successfully, different jobs can have different outcomes. So are you good with releasing that? Secondly, finding your North Star, your why, is extremely important. This North Star of yours can become your guiding principles, almost like boundaries that help you make decisions. When you're doing your initial discovery work, the guiding principles that you get out of your North Star can create clarity, and clarity is a kindness that you can give yourself, especially when you're doing the initial discovery work, trying to figure out the pros and cons of moving into this career path. Also, discovery can be both exciting and scary. You don't know what you don't know, and that unknown area can be off-putting for some people. Knowing your values, knowing your principles and boundaries can be really helpful when you go through those tough moments of going, gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. Newsflash, we all don't know what we're doing, and I certainly didn't either. For me, I needed time. When it was time to make that career switch, I needed to get away to get clarity. I did a backpacking trip halfway across the United States on the Appalachian Trail in 2019. It's one of the best decisions I could have ever done for my life. I went from Georgia to Virginia, about 1,000 miles, and in that time, I was able to really get clear on what I needed. I was able to get clear on my principles. The first of which was I knew I had a brain and that I could probably handle some more school, so I was going to look at higher education and career fields that aligned with that. I also knew that I was exactly where I needed to be in life, that the time I had spent in the outdoor industry was not a waste, and that's the same for you too. The skills you learn in your active career do transition into your next one. Thirdly, for me, my dad was already in healthcare. He was selling medical devices, and he said, son, people are always going to be sick, so there was some career stability. And I really valued that idea of stability, especially coming from a retail job where my schedule could change all the time. The fourth thing, and I didn't really mention this, was I did actually make a choice. I had decided before going on the Appalachian Trail that I was going to try and be a lawyer and go to law school. Honestly, I'm so glad I gave myself time out there because I realized there's no way in heck I could be a lawyer and that it just wasn't something I was passionate about. Truly, I knew I was made for more, and I had also accepted that the time I had spent in my existing career wasn't wasted time. Give yourself the grace for that. And that brings me to my next point. Don't be afraid to use your personal experience to guide your interest in what you want to do. There's that adage, if you're happy, you won't work a day in your life. There's some truth to that. It makes the work easier, but work is still work. It's what you need to ultimately get paid so that you can eat and do things that you find fulfillment in life. So just keep that in mind. The next thing I'd like to talk about was getting equipped. In my particular case in healthcare, you need to be trained. You typically need some type of licensure or college degree or even a graduate degree in my case to get to the field that you want to get to. Now, that was my journey. I'm not saying you can't go into the trades or even start your own business. In fact, there's plenty of plumbers, electricians, and business owners out there that have made and will make far more money than I will in my position in healthcare. And that's cool. More power to you. I'm happy for you even. I just know for me and maybe for you as you're navigating this career field that you probably need some equipping, so to speak. So my encouragement to you is get equipped and get around the people that can teach you the things you need to know so that you can use that equipment properly. I also want to pause and manage expectations for a bit. In this world, we will have trouble, and that applies to career transitions too. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. My career transition into healthcare was not smooth at all. I needed to go to grad school. I was actually denied the first time I tried to get into grad school because I needed this accounting class. So I called the dean of admissions. The dean of admissions says if I could get that accounting class over the summer semester, I could do it. The problem, the two schools that were near my house that offered that class were completely filled up for the summer. So what did I have to do? I did eventually find an accounting class, but it was at a school that was about an hour away. So 3 times a week, I would get in my car and drive an hour all the way to this random community college so I could take an accounting class. Long story short, I passed the class and I ended up joining the healthcare program in the fall semester of 2019. That brings me to my next point. And honestly, I probably should have spoken of this earlier. Pray. Pray a lot. Pray without ceasing, because you're going to need an act of God to happen sometimes. And honestly, that's what happened with me. I prayed that I would get into this program. I got into the program in a way that I never would have expected to get into the program. But on top of that, I prayed to get around the right people and the right experiences so that I could become valuable in this career field, and then also know the right people to get me connected to the right jobs. And in doing so, I did eventually get connected. Say what you want about college. It's a great place to network and also meet people that know people who tend to know more about the thing that you're trying to do. So I'm not saying college is for anybody, but what I will say is find the right network of folks. It could be in a professional organization. It could be through a local church. It could even be within whatever job you're doing right now. But find the right people and then pray a lot. And that brings us to the next part, the big break, my big break. I eventually did get a job in healthcare. I got a job as an ER registration person during October of 2020. As you can probably imagine, a lot was going on during that time, and for the healthcare workers in the field, it was really, really tough, and that was my experience too. I worked the 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. shift. Basically had no life. It sucked. But thankfully, I was able to only stay in that job for a couple months because, again, going back to my earlier point, I had a great network and I was praying a lot. I'll never forget going to my church during a worship night. And I prayed and I said, Lord, thank you so much for this ER job I have right now. It really sucks, and I hope I don't have to stay in it too long. But I know you have something for me, and I have faith in that. I kid you not. 5 minutes later, I get a call from someone in my graduate school cohort. She said her mom was looking for someone to hire for an upcoming contract for a health insurance company, and she offered my name up. Within 5 minutes of that prayer, I had a connection into my next big thing. And ultimately, that job is what I'm going to consider my real first job in healthcare. I joined that company and I stayed there for 5 years. And for Cindy, if you're watching, I really appreciate your time and investment in me. That was 5 years ago. Now I want to bring this to today and a couple things that have happened since then. But one of the earliest things I noticed in my career transition was a deep sense of purpose. Everything that happened in this transition, I was able to pinpoint and had clear goals and next steps. Get the education, find the right people, get that first job, learn skills in that new job, and then grow and try to find the next thing. Simple on paper and to talk about, but those practical steps became my map to my next biggest thing. Very helpful. The second thing, and honestly I'm not too proud of it, I gained quite a bit of weight. I gained between 20 and 30 pounds since grad school 5 years ago. Working a full-time job during 2020 and going to grad school full-time will do that to somebody. And honestly, this is another reason why I'm making this channel and why I'm telling you this information now. I want to document a little bit about fitness and about the things I'm doing to try and lose some of that weight. I'm grateful to say that I've lost about 10 pounds so far, and I'm going to walk through some other content in the future about how I did that and my current plan to get to my goal weight of 185 pounds. But that's going to come in the future. Stress is a thing in career transitions, so just be mindful of your health when you're going about it. Are you kidding me? I need my stupid computer to not turn off suddenly. The third is have a plan for your income. So I had a big income shift overnight. I went from making $14,000 a year to $76,000 a year. And honestly, I didn't handle it well. I didn't have a plan for that extra income when I really could have grown in budgeting. This really hurt me as a young adult because I wasn't able to generate enough savings when I certainly had the opportunity to do so. And this ended up affecting my marriage in the beginning. But we've been able to work through that by the grace of God. And I just want you to avoid that mistake. Have a plan for when you get to that new income. The fourth thing I would say, going back to income a little bit, is learn to specialize. When I jumped into my career, and I encourage this for you as well, it's okay to be a generalist. I was a healthcare generalist. I took on new projects all the time to try and learn new things, and eventually I found something I was good at. By focusing on that thing I was good at and adding value in that area, for me it was process improvement. I was able to not only demonstrate that I wasn't just this blunt object of a tool. I could be applied in a specific purpose, and that added value. And that value ultimately elevated me. I was able to navigate two tough job markets. The first was during 2020, and then the second was actually in 2025 with the advent of AI. I was actually able to get a new job because I had this unique specialized skill set, a skill set that has actually allowed me to double my income since when I first started in healthcare. And with that, that was really the final point for me. You're going to do this transition. It's going to be scary, and you're going to need to work hard. You might take on something you don't like, and you might take on something that's more of a general role. But I also pray that you can avoid the same mistakes I did. Specialize in something that is important and valuable to you. I say all of this because I believe there's other young men out there that are a little bit like me, trying to navigate life and live intentionally. That's my hope for this channel, is for me to document my experiences that I've gone through, tell you about some of the mistakes I've made along the way, tell you about some of the wins, and ultimately just try to live a more intentional life when it comes to faith, fitness, career stuff, and with relationships. If any of that is of interest to you, come join the journey. I'm hoping that we can learn together, and hopefully we can create this virtual brotherhood. I feel like the world needs a bit more authenticity, a lot more of, hey, I'm going to raise my hand in the air and I'm just to say I'm not doing this right. Heck, even this video I've had to record like 4 or 5 times because I haven't been able to do it right. Maybe I'll get better, maybe I won't. But either way, thanks for your time today. If you'd like to join this journey, hit subscribe. I'll also have some upcoming resources in the future, like putting together a newsletter, and you can find some more information about that in the description below. Thank you, and have a good one.